Yeshua ben Prachi Omer, Aseh Lucha Rav, you should make for yourself a teacher. Choose a teacher for yourself. Uknei Lucha Chaver, and acquire a friend for yourself. These two components, being part of a person's life, are crucial. The teacher, what is a teacher? He teaches you what you don't know. He informs you what you don't know. And a friend tells you what you may not want to hear, but because he's a friend, he's going to tell you in either case. So each one provides another essential service to the person to be able to walk a proper path in life. Even if you don't want to do, but very often, because of conflicts of interest, we see things the way we want to see them. Bobby, Ron.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very often, it's very interesting. The Torah tells us that a person who takes bribery, is bribed, he's disqualified as a judge. Why? Because to be a judge, to be able to adjudicate a case between two individuals, you have to be totally impartial. And if that impartiality is compromised and there's a level of bias, or not even bias, but you favor one over the other, automatically that impairs your ability to evaluate the evidence properly to give an appropriate verdict. Therefore, if a judge has any conflict of interest, he has to actually disqualify himself. He cannot evaluate the evidence and give a verdict on that case. So even if you know what to do, every moment of our lives, because we have certain drives, inclinations, those inclinations very often cause us to not see things right. We see things through what we call rosy-colored lenses. And because of that, the reality is slightly distorted, and we don't see it accurately and acutely the way we should see it. So what does the teacher do? The teacher firstly tells you it is what it is, and it's not the way you see it. So what is the person who's told this, what does he think? My teacher's a rabbi. For him, that's considered appropriate behavior. But I'm an ordinary guy. And for an ordinary person, that's considered an extreme stringency. And it's not necessary. So because of the conflict of interest the person has, because he wants to do what he wants to do, he somehow shuts out the rabbi. And he starts making discernments. He's the rabbi, I'm an ordinary person. For him, it's appropriate. For me, it's not the right time in my life. What happens if you have a good friend? You acquired a friend. And the friend, he's not the rabbi. So the standard which is demanded of him is a different standard that's demanded of the rabbi. And he says to his friend, who's his peer group, by the way, Jack, what the rabbi's telling you is right. And the reason why you don't see it right is because you have a conflict of interest. Because you want to do what you want to do, but it's the wrong thing to do. And the reason why his friend is able to see it, because since he's not caught up in that conflict of interest, he's able to have a level of objectivity that he can see it right. So if you have both things playing simultaneously, the teacher giving you the information and trying to be the role model for you, but you say he's not really a role model because he's not part of my peer group. But the friend who's a peer of this person, he says, he's a role model for me. And his message is clear and has relevance to us. And the reason why you're turning your back on it is because of your conflict of interest. Now, the question is this. Acquire a friend for yourself. If you got to buy a friend, you know what the friendship is worth. It's worth nothing. I remember many years ago when I lived in Baltimore, a certain person, single, got married eventually. And he skied before most Americans skied. Because his parents came from Germany, and he would go once a year to Switzerland with a friend of his, also had a German background. And this guy was his best friend. What happened? When they go skiing, this person would carry his skis for him. He would carry his bags. When you go to a restaurant, he'd pick up the tab. He was his best friend. You got it. This is Avat Tluya B'Davar. The friendship is based upon because he kisses the ground that I walk on, and he shines my shoes, and he cleans up after me. Is that a friend? Friendship is worthless. A friend, acquire you from a friend, you didn't buy the friendship. Every friendship, which is a true friendship, it's not easy. A good friend tells a friend what he has to hear, although it strains the relationship. That's a true friend. So every friendship, they have to be through thick and thin together, and the times where the person doesn't want to hear, but because you value that person's relationship, you tell him what he doesn't want to hear. And when you tell him and he understands it's coming from a pure source, it's not he wants to lord over you, then he speaks some sense, he knocks some sense in that person's head, that he should do the right thing and not do the wrong thing for himself. So if you have both things interplaying simultaneously, Aseh l'charav, choose a rabbi, a teacher for yourself. Acquire a friend, even though it's difficult to swallow when you don't want to hear what you don't want to hear. It's worth it, because ultimately you're going to have that balance. And if you have that balance, you're going to walk and follow a proper path to be productive in your life and not ultimately be a liability to yourself. Most people, they have a rabbi who's the rabbi of the congregation, of the synagogue. But when we speak about rabbi, you're a teacher. Rabbi doesn't mean a rabbi, means a teacher. What is a teacher? The teacher communicates knowledge and lessons of life. You must have that person. Well, I belong to something like the rabbi says, phenomenal sermons. That's not a teacher. And a teacher is not a person, you hear a lecture, he gives you phenomenal information, but he doesn't talk to you. It's like abstract information. A teacher means there's a teacher and a student is called a father and a son within the context of Torah. That means there's a personal interest which the teacher has in that student. The Talmud tells us, when you teach Torah to a fellow Jew's son, it's like you're his father. I mean, if you have no relationship with him, how could you be his father? You'd only have that impact within his spiritual growth only if you have input. Input means you do daily or an ongoing basis, you're involved with the person's life. You're advising him. You're advising what's right, what's wrong. But again, it's not enough. To fully balance it, you need the good friend. Of course, there's always a way not to want to see it. The friend sets the balance, then now you're balanced. Because they're friend. Most people don't have a teacher. Well, I love that man's shiur. I go every Wednesday night, I go to the rabbi's class. And listen, it's not a teacher. You're going to attend a Talmud lesson. It could be the most ingenious lesson. It has nothing to do with you as a person. The teacher, he teaches you how to live your life as a Jew. That's the teacher we're talking about. And when they have a question, you consult with them. It's not only you consult with the rabbi when you have a medical problem or some other kind of problem. It's always, am I living my life appropriately as a Jew? Maybe it's time to upgrade. Now, sometimes people, they stagnate. And they could, if they would apply themselves slightly more, they'd be at a different level today. I had a case, certain person, student of mine for long, it became an observant Jew, Yad Avram person, and it comes to send this child to school or to elementary school. He tells me he's not sending him to Ramaz. He's sending him on the west side to a school called the Heschel School. Heschel School. The Heschel School is a Jewish cultural school. God is not part of that curriculum, not part of it. So I was like shocked. I said, you're an observant Jew, you're this and this. You have Ramaz. I'm not saying you should send him to a black hat, ultra-Orthodox school, but there's no comparison. Of course, it should be Ramaz. How do you send him there? Well, he gives me 16 different reasons why. I said, you better think it over. And I think you're doing the wrong thing. And ultimately, you're going to pay the price down the road because your child, his whole perception of what Judaism is going to be within that frame. You want to have a better frame. It should be framed differently. He listened to me, did not send him, sent him to Ramaz. Went to Ramaz, eventually went to study in Israel, and he's a different kid. I mean, he's a young man, different. He could have said, what does a rabbi know? I once tried to advise somebody in business, and the guy says, he shares what he says, what does the rabbi know about business? What does the rabbi know about business? I know more about business than this guy and his wife combined 6 times over. Okay? But again, there's always that pushback. Because when you don't want to hear something, there's always a pushback. That's it. King Solomon was the wisest man who ever lived. And he says, he opens up Koheles when he writes about life. Hevel havalim akol havel. Could you imagine? You have the Taj Mahal. You have wine that sells for $10,000 a bottle of wine. You have a gold throne. You have a diamond-studded crown. King Solomon says it's vanity, it's vain, it's worthless. Could you imagine? This is the wisest man who ever lived. When it's worthless. If it's for the sake of the material, it's worthless. It has no value. It's vain. If it's to facilitate something of value, then it has value. But otherwise, it's vain. Hevel avalim. So if a rabbi would say that, no, he said, what does the rabbi know? Was the rabbi ever at Acapulco? Was he ever in a bullfight with a red cape that he's going to be gored? You know how exciting that is? They'd ever go hand gliding, jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Never did it. He would only know what it means. He wouldn't criticize it. King Solomon says, I've been there. I have it all. I was there. I'm telling you, it's all nonsense. It's worthless unless it has a purpose. Has a purpose, that's something else. But for itself, it has no purpose. That's it. So again, you can't say Solomon doesn't know what he's talking about. Me, you could tell me, you were never there. You were never in Monaco. You were never there. Were you ever at a gambling table? Thank God I was never. Were you ever in Las Vegas? Thank God I was never there. Did you ever attempt to jump off the World Trade Center before they took it down? Thank God those thoughts never came to my mind. Thank God. Baruch Hashem. Oh, Rabbi, you don't even know what it means to fall from the 115th floor. Free fall. You know what that means? I don't want to know what it means. I never took LSD, so I don't know what psychedelic is all about. That's it. But he could live every moment of his life within the context of the mitzvah. If you eat for the sake of being healthy to serve God, you sleep because you need so many hours of sleep to be healthy. Because you can only have a healthy mind if you have a healthy body. And you have to relax for the same reason. A human being is not a machine. You got to relax. But what a person says, yeah, no question, you have to relax. You have to take a vacation. What if a person vacations 11 and a half months of the year and it works 2 weeks a year? That's called vacation. That's called not working. You got to relax. What's relaxing? You have to take a half an hour break, an hour break. You have to read the paper. You have to, 8 hours a day is reading every periodical. European Tribune, this Tribune, and the Daily Mirror, and the Daily News, and the Daily who knows what. So you're wasting your time. What are you wasting? That's called wasting time. You willingly weigh your life. Of course, if it's a necessity, of course it has value. But it's just to kill time and let your life just slip before your eyes. There's no greater tragedy than that. The Mishnah tells us it's not very interesting. When Rishonim, evil people, when they sleep, it's good for them, it's good for the world. And when they're awake, it's not good for them, it's not good for the world. Because a Rasha, an evil person, when he sleeps, he can't do any harm. So he's not liable when he's sleeping because he's not doing wrong. And other peoples are not victims because he's sleeping. When he's awake, he's bringing liability on himself. He's bringing damage to the world. It's a detriment. Tzaddikim, when they sleep, they're doing a disservice to themselves and a disservice to the world. Because when they're awake, what are they doing? They're generating very valuable a valuable representation. That's what it is. Same idea. If you could be productive and you sit and waste your life away, there's no greater tragedy than that. It's a waste. But you have to understand what's considered productive. Let's say a person made enough money in his life, and he's charitable everything. They said, you can make more money. So the person says, what's the point? You give more charity. So he says, I maxed out on my charity. So you're right. There's no reason to work. So go study. Go do volunteer doing chesed, helping people. It's unlimited how much you can help people. Right? Go be a tutor in the school. Teach kids how to tie their shoes. They have these old people. There used to be a retired teacher. He goes and he's a tutor in some public high school. The school that they have a metal detector to get in there. If you go into a convent, so the government give you special extra pay and some certain insurance.